Such is perception, such is its arising, such is its passing away. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right. For a change, took the convenience of Pali chanting, since it is so used to, it is easy for me. Anyway, coming back to our usual topic, which is the listening supportive factor, which the Blessed One has recommended for anyone who is practicing mindfulness or walking on his path. We will have to support the practice. And one such supportive factor is listening, and then discussion. And then before those two, there is another one which we call moral supportive factor, which we usually adhere to in our day-to-day life. And we just recollected that when we started the program. And by walking and by sitting, we have also provided two supportive factors, which we call concentration supportive factor and the wisdom supportive factor. So this time, we are basically using for the listening supportive factor. For the listening supportive factor, we have taken the most important word of the Blessed One, which is the discourse on 4 foundations of mindfulness. And in that discourse, we have discussed quite a lot, right? And in that discourse, what the Blessed One does is, he is healing the existence of humanity. He is analyzing human survival, right? When he's analyzing human survival, he's basically mentioning the discourse as its word suggests 4 foundations of mindfulness. But in that 4 foundations is analyzing the humanity in 2 different levels, right? The 4 foundations are the mindfulness on the body, mindfulness on the feelings, and mindfulness on the mind. These 3 things are taken together is known as a human being. Of that matter, any animal. Any animal will have a body, which is a physical process, and then feelings is the beginning of the mental process, and the mind itself is the mental process. So these 2-3 things together is an animal, right? And these three things, being mindful on these 3 things is being mindful of the gross layer of a human being. And a finer layer of the same thing is once again given in the 4th foundation, which is the foundation of the nature or foundation of the phenomena. In foundation of phenomena, Blessed One is doing the same thing, which is analyzing physical process and mental process at a different level, at a different layer. It's like when you go to school, in grade, say for example, 3 or 4, you will be taught plus minus, addition, plus minus, what are the other, multiplication and division. You will be doing the same thing even when you do a PhD, but at a different level, right? You don't do anything other than that. It's all plus minus, multiplication and division, but different meaning. So it's the same thing is done even here. Being mindful on the physical process, being mindful on the mental process, being mindful on the feelings is given in another layer in analyzing or in being mindful of the phenomena. And there is another section to phenomena, but before coming onto that section or the spirituality section, he is analyzing the final layer. So in analyzing the final layers, first he analyzed the difference between pre-Buddha and post-Buddha factors, right? So in other words, before Buddha, there was mindfulness. That mindfulness stopped halfway through the mindfulness of the mind. They never considered, or they never knew, they never thought about being mindful of the phenomena. So when Buddha enlightened, he found there was another side to be mindful so far as the mind is concerned. And when you become mindful of that side, there is another final layer of humanity, right? So that is what we are discussing. I know what I'm saying may be difficult to be comprehended. I'm just giving a summary of what we have discussed. So we will try to make it as simple as possible when we come to the main topic. So in being mindful of the phenomena, the first thing the Blessed One introduced was the hindrances, and we discussed hindrances in detail, which, if I remember, are the sensual desire and ill will, sloth and torpor, and agitation and worry, and the skeptical doubt, right? So once you become mindful of those things, then we get into this final layer of humanity, one final layer of humanity. And the title of that, which the Blessed One has given, is the clinging aggregates, 5 clinging aggregates. The 5 clinging aggregates are form, feelings, perception, mental volitions, or you call it even fabrication, and the consciousness, right? Why we call clinging aggregates to these 5 is because these 5 are having its general nature, where they behave in a certain pattern. In a certain pattern, in the sense, when they behave in the time dimension and space dimension, and in the mental process, mental dimensions. We have past, present, future, and we have near and far. We have pleasant, unpleasant. We have gross, subtle. We have internal, external. Although this is our 11 ways how the nature is working, we don't let the nature to work in that manner. We would like things closer than far away. We may like things subtler than gross. We may like things that may happen in the future than today, or than now, or what happening. So we may have some, depending on our desires, depending on our craving, we may reject few of these natural existence, and we may like only some others. As a result, we go against the nature, then it becomes a clinging, because you will have to hold on to tightly, because you are going against the nature. If you don't go against the nature, there is no clinging. You just go with the song. Now you don't do that. You go against the nature. Therefore, you will have to try your level best to meet what you want. Right? Then it is clinging, and you call it aggregates. You will have to do that for each and everything. How many things you are doing, how many things you are having, how many people you know. For all that, you will have to do this. So therefore, it's a huge mountain. Therefore, Blessed One calls it aggregate. In Pali, we call it skandha. Right. So we have discussed such aggregates, 2 such aggregates. One is the form aggregate and the other feeling aggregate. In the form aggregate, if you remember, before coming to the form layer, we had 2 other layers before that. The first layer was the body. This physical body is what we all can see and which is tangible. But when you take your attention inside, what happens is it goes beyond these physical things that we see. You start feeling, you start sensing its fundamental elements, which we call earth, air, heat, and what's the other one? Water, right? So you will start feeling the characteristics of these things, right? So that's a final layer of the body. That is how this body is made of. Not only the body, anything in the material world, these are the basic elements, right? And if you, so therefore these elements are having distinct characteristics. Coldness is distinctly identified from the warmth. Similarly, heaviness is different to lightness. So therefore, these are having very distinct characteristics. But when you go to deeper layer, even of these basic elements, all these are having a common characteristic. And the common characteristic is the form. Therefore, the Blessed One said in discourse called Pena Pindukam, we call it poem discourse, is he saw a globe of form getting formed in the river, then he said our body is like that. That is how all these elements are working at the deeper layer. All these elements, maybe water, maybe air, maybe the other two, they just pass and arise, arise and pass, arise and pass. It's a common characteristic. So when you go to that layer, then it is called form. And even in that layer, now we are clinging onto the body, right? And when you go down or deeper into the body, we may cling on to the other elements. But if you go even deeper, you may be clinging even onto this very subtle layer of your layer of materiality, because observing that arising and passing away is a pleasure for a lot of people, because it does not have all the trouble that you have to maintain this rubbish body. It's a very peaceful place. Therefore, Blessed One, when he enlightened, there were people practicing, and some of the guys who were there, and they have given up everything else. They were enjoying this subtle vibration that they were having in the body. Therefore, Blessed One said, that is also clinging. Even there you have craving. Since you are going to maintain that, till you are suffering. And we discussed that in detail. And then some people went even beyond that, and they realized by trying to maintain the subtle layer of the materiality, you will have to hold on to the object. By holding on to the object, which is when you breathe in, you label it as breathe in, breathe in, breathing, or breathe out, breathe out, breathe out. Or when you walk, you say right, left, right, left. In that manner, you bring your attention to your physicality. And when you bring the attention to your physicality, you go to deeper layers, and this is how you go to the form layer, right? To maintain that, you will have to keep on saying breathing, 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 breathe out, breathe out, breathe out, or whatever the object that you are taking. So in that deeper layer, they realize this is a trouble, and it takes away the happiness. So then what they do is they try, or in fact, before Buddha, they were teaching students, now you stop this labeling, calling it by name. You just observe the physical rapture you have. Right? So when you drop that, then there is no trouble for you to maintain the form. Whether the form is there or not, you are mentally happy, and the body is very rapturous. Right? So without labeling, you just keep on observing your body, and mind is calmer, body is also very peaceful and happy, and you just keep observing that. You just keep maintaining that. That is also great. And that
is a craving not at the level of materiality, it's a craving at the level of feelings. Feelings is the entrance to the mind. Right? So that is what we discussed in the last session. So the topic today is the perception. The Blessed One, we are talking about. Hope Krish can hear. Before coming on to the perception, what perception is, or the clinging aggregate of perception, I would like to mention talking about perception is cannot be done in a bar. It cannot be done in a party. It cannot be done with those who are just offering flowers and incense sticks. It cannot be done those who only listen to bana. It can be done only to some people who at least try to walk and sit and understand materiality. Because it's the final layer of the mental process. So those who listen to bana, it is as good as listening to Michael Jackson and then finish it. Right? Or when they offer some flowers to Buddha, they offer flowers and chant the stanza and then say, okay, may I be able to pass the exam without any problem, and then go home and sleep well. Right? But they don't understand this perception. They don't understand this form, or they say they understand at least form. They may understand feelings, but the perception layer is much more deeper than that, because now we are entering into the mind. So therefore, the basic qualification to discuss the perception is the practice, right? But having said that, unfortunately, in a lot of Buddhist countries and in the world today, these things have been institutionalized. So therefore, people know this by book, but they don't know what is happening in the practice. This mic is not something for a robe. Right. Anyway, that's all right. Those who practice will have a different understanding when it comes to perception. So you have the basic qualification. So I'm going to talk about perception now. If you take the meaning of perception, the function of the perception is to distinctly identify something or someone separately from the others. Right? If I give, for example, whatever that I can see can be done only by the eye. Ear can't see, tongue can't see. That is because of that particular perception relating to the eye. There's a separate perception relating to the ear. And like that, for the 6 sense faculties, our perceptions are different. So if I take another step, how it differs is, because for these things, to identify them distinctly, the mind has taken some signs, some notes, some genders, some classifications, some analysis of things. And using those things, the mind identifies, yes, this is something for the eye, this is something for the ear, right? So it depends on the shapes and manners, signs and notes that the mind is keeping regarding things, okay? So if I give an example, take take a male person, adult male person, for example, and that person, say my dad, and he's dead for me. But for my mom, that's the husband. The sibling, father. And for our cousins, he will be uncle. Right? And when he goes to work, one of the employees. Right? Just in general public, a man. Right? For the same person, different people will have different person. And also for the same person, same another person, could put it in different way, will have changing perceptions as well. For example, you may have a friend with you, and for some time it will be just friends. And after some time, it may change into girlfriend. And then it may change into partner. It may change into wife. That may change into the mother of the children. And then that will change into something else. Right? So like that, for the same person, our perception keeps changing. Right? So this is, since our perception is playing such a major part, you know, when vehicles are made, they just change the shape of the lights, of the outward appearance, and change the perception of the people. But the engine is the same thing. It never changes. It changes after 10, 15 years. But outside shape and manner is changed because the perception is playing such a major part, and using that, a lot of things are happening. So therefore, since the perception or the signs that we take, shapes, notes, genders and manners that we take in our mind, what we usually do is, from the time we were born, we are going behind these signs, going behind these shapes and manners, going behind perception. When you're growing up, we try to grow up as quickly as possible. When we are small, we want to be big. We want to be big because our perception wants to change. And when we were about to become adolescents, we just always go and see whether I have any beard on my beard on me. And if beard is not there, there are guys, you know, shaving prematurely so that they will have beard faster. That is what happened to him. Right. So like that, we go behind perception, go behind things changing, and it doesn't stop there. So when you grow up, we will have a perception of how we should look like, right? And we go to the mirror and keep on looking at the mirror and change different hairstyles and different shapes of smiling, different ways of standing, and these are things that all of us have done. Right? That is because we want to be something, and we want to have a different perception, and it doesn't stop there. And in the school, what we are taught are all perceptions. Mathematics is a different perception, science is another perception, social science is another perception, and so many things. And higher you grow, and there are so many signs, so many perceptions divided into faculties, divided into departments, divided into different courses. All these are feeding, keeping on feeding perceptions. Right? So higher the amount of perceptions you are, higher is your education qualification. Right? And they call it, therefore, do more and know more, or know more or do more. Those are the slogans that universities are using to attract children. But what they simply do is they keep on feeding perception, right? So it is, I'm not blaming that, but we should know what is happening. And in that manner, the perception is making a huge role, taking a huge role in our existence. And therefore, the Blessed One said in the discourse called Pena Pindupama, which is Foam discourse, in that discourse he said, body is like a globe of foam, and feelings is like, it's like a water bubble. And he said, perception is like a mirage. The word he used was Marchapupama Sanya, right? Which means mirage shimmering in the hot sun. What happens is when there is a mirage, wild animals in the desert, they are so thirsty. When they see the mirage in front of them, they run as fast as possible towards that. And closer, more they run, further it gets. And what happens is they run behind that, and finally, without having any water, they just fall down. And that is what is happening to us as well. We just keep running behind things. And at the age of 60, 65, only when we turn back and see, and we call it in Sinhala, which means we have played the drum and there is no drum that is played, and half the drum has broken as well. So therefore, Blessed One said, this running behind perception is like running behind a mirage. And we have two different types of perception. The two different type of perceptions we have are the worldly perceptions, the mundane perception. And in this mundane perception, why it is called a mirage is very nicely explained in a discourse by the Buddha. And that discourse is the diversity of perceptions. That's a beautiful discourse which explains why and how we go behind perception and how it becomes a mirage. And the Blessed One says in the diversity of perception, at Savati, because it is in dependence on the diversity of elements that there arises the diversity of perception. In dependence on the diversity of perceptions, that there arises the diversity of intention. Dependence on the diversity of intentions, that there arises the diversity of desire. Dependence on the diversity of desires, that there arises the diversity of passion. In dependence on the diversity of passions, that there arises the diversity of quest. This is the quest we have had. Always we want to, now I was born in a remote village in the North Central province. I am here now. That is because of all these things happening. Want to go to the closest town, didn't stop there, then wanted to go to the best possible town in the Eastern province, went there, and then didn't stop there, and then wanted to go to Colombo, went to Colombo, not enough, then had to go to Middle East, not enough, and then here. So that is because we have this, this is happening. What was mentioned is happening. It is the diversity of elements that arises and it gives rise to the diversity of perception. And then diversity of perception is going on to the other things, intentions and desires and the passion and then the quest, right? So we look for something, we search for something all the time. So let me explain this bit more in detail. The first one is independence of the diversity of elements. What is the diversity of elements? If you take our body, as we discussed earlier, our body is made of the 5 basic elements. Those are the elements we know, right? Or rather 6 elements, sorry, 4 elements. And in those 4 elements, if you take the body, we have different faculties, 6 faculties. Right? And eye faculty, as I said earlier, can only see, which is made of earth, water, fire, and what's the other? Yeah. Right. Eye faculty is made of those 2. What about the ear faculty? Is also made of the same thing. Tongue faculty, made of the same thing. Tactile sensation body, made of the same thing. Nose, made of the same thing. And our brain, made of the same thing. But see the diversity. Although it is made of the same thing, I can't hear, ear can't see. That is the diversity. And it is just the diversity internally. When you take the things that the eye can see, what a diversity we have outside. A simple example, cars. Just one brand. How many models? In 1 year, how many models? Forget about different models and different years. Such a diverse thing. It's just for one type of cars. How many types of cars we have? How many types of vehicles we have? How many types of houses we have? And it's so diverse. And when we read this, the diversity of elements, that there arises the diversity of perception. It doesn't give much weight. But when you really see, you see how diverse the elements are. As a result, the perception, our signs, notes, shapes and manners that we take into our mind also different. Our Mazda is different. It's a good car, right? It's different to Toyota, right? And Mercedes, and then BMW, and the list goes on. Right? Our perception keeps changing depending on the diversity of the element, right? And as a result, because of those diverse perception, our intentions also different. Right? If you from whatever you have, okay, it's enough for me. This car is enough for me. I want to go to next time when I'm buying, I'm going to buy a BMW. So our intention becomes different because of that diversity of the perception, right? And then when you have that intention, I want to buy this, I want to become that, I want to do this, then what happens is there arises the desire. With that intention, the desire arises. And when the desire arises, what the Blessed One says is, in Pali, in English we call it passion, but it doesn't just don't do justice so far as I am concerned to the word that is given in Pali. Pali we call it parilaha. Parilaha means burning. When you have a desire to do something, you have a burning within. I remember when I wanted to go to Middle East when I was working in Colombo, it was a burning for me. It was such a burning need for me. I did lots and lots of things to achieve that. And similarly, when I wanted to come here, and everything else stopped. And we all have done exams. During exams, to get through the exam, and we have an intention and we have a desire to do it, and the burning happens, the passion, parilaha takes place. So I'm not quite sure whether the word passion is giving that weight, right? And because of that burning, the quest start, searching start. That is why Google is doing such a marvelous job And so many search engines are there because we all are looking for things, looking for things, looking for things. Anything, ask Google uncle, ask Google uncle. That's the norm now, right? Okay. So it's the simple quest that we ourselves have within us. As a society, these things have come up, and even in societies, we have the same things. In schools, we try to encourage children to look for new things in a different way. What we are trying to teach is go for quests, go try to generate new perception. When we were growing up, till about 70s, we never knew what a TV was. TVs first came in 77 into Sri Lanka. So for us, I know. And before that, it was not in our perception. We were having the radio near our ears and listening to so many things, right? And Wi-Fi, hotspots, and what else? Bluetooth. Never thought of. I first touched a computer at the university. Hadn't seen a computer. Forget about these things, right? So therefore, we teach, it has come to the society, and we now encourage children. Therefore, look for new things, look for new perceptions all the time. So have passions, have desires, and burn yourself, and then go for quest. Government is giving money as well for that. They call it Australian Research Council, NHMRC, National Health Research Council. Then it is not only that. And you get funds here from overseas institutions as well. And they call it research, they call it quest. Right. That is exactly what the Blessed One is explaining here. And he says, and because of these diversities, and it keeps happening. And he further goes and says, independence of the form element, there arises the perception of form. Independence of the perception of form, there arises the intention regarding form. Independence on the intentions regarding form, there arises desire for form. Independence on the desire for form, there arises the passion for form. Independence on passion for form, there arises the quest for form. Right? It's just the form, only the I, other things. So it's therefore perception is simple word. The Blessed One says, if you go behind these quests, which are never ending, it's going to be a mirage. He said, don't completely get rid of that. You can't live without perception. If you can't understand your mother from the wife, then it's a big problem. What the Blessed One says is, understand that as it is, such is form, which means you come out of the clinging to the form. Right? Most of the things that we have today are lot of wants have become needs now. We have a lot of needs, but he's cutting that excess out because we have a lot of excess around us. We have no time to enjoy anything. I saw a nice post in social media a couple of days ago, and an artist was carving a very nice statue out of stone. And then a spectator came and said, you are doing a wonderful job. How do you create such marvelous masterpieces? Then the artist says, no, that beauty was there in the stone anyway. I'm just taking the excess out. So we have that beauty within us. Because of this unwanted clinging, we have no time to see the beauty. Right? Even if you can see the beauty, you start clinging on to the beauty. And then it becomes another craving. And that is the one the Blessed One is addressing. So I'm not going to take what the Blessed One is doing in this session. It will take at least another 1 hour. So I would like to postpone it to the next session. But I want to conclude saying, because of this diversity of elements, it goes to the diversity of quests. And what it finally does is, it changes our perception in this manner. We never want to believe things are impermanent. We build up the permanent perception of for everything. This is why the, what do you call it, cosmetic industry is thriving so much. Right? Because we don't want to have any changes. Small pimple, just cover it up. Before, after, so nice. And I mean, I'm just taking the cosmetic industry. It is the same thing for anything else. For anything else, it is the same thing. So we never, the reality of impermanence is trying to be completely thrown away from our minds. They try to build up the permanent perception as much as possible. And the other thing is, the perception that they are trying to hold on, cling on to, is by doing all these things, is the pleasure principle, pleasure perception. There is nothing unpleasant. We can change any unpleasantness to pleasantness. And then have Panadols, have this, have that. Right? And I had a toothache. Or not I had, I have it. And I went to see the dentist. Can I give some Panadol, some antibiotic? What do you call it? Antibiotic. Can I give some antibiotics? And no. Just see what is wrong and try to, if necessary, remove it. No, tooth is good one. It's a sensitive tooth. You will have to have it. And she was trying to give me antibiotic. I said no. So they have, for anything, you can get rid of it. You can make any unpleasant pleasant. But what the Blessed One says is, unpleasantness is there. When the unpleasantness is there, just observe it as it is. That is what we discussed last time. Then your attitude towards unpleasantness changes. That itself becomes pleasant then. So long as you try to attack and fight and get rid of unpleasantness, unpleasantness will thrive, because you are hating the hatred. You're hating the unpleasantness. So it will keep on thriving on that. And the other thing, the perception that you thrive because of this quest is the personal view, personal identity. I become the center of gravity. I can control the world. That is the perception that we develop. Right? Especially from about, say, 30 to 50, we become the rulers of the world. We help parents, we help family, we help the society, we help motherland and all that. We think that we can control the world. So these three perceptions are being strongly carved into our mind by this diversity of elements and by the mundane perception. So in the next session, we will see what the Blessed One is doing to change this perception, how supramundane perception will be handled. So with that, I would like to conclude my session. Hope this talk gave some idea of what perception and what role it plays in our day-to-day lives. So with that, I can open up for any questions, comments, reports, complaints, etc. Any question. Yeah, just give me a second. Yeah, I was anyway going to ask from you. Right, okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
A lot of pressure, yeah.
Yeah.
I found that today with the mindful walking that I had a very big improvement in being able to focus on the walking, and I actually had some time periods where I was not having too many thoughts pop up, which is very very rare for me because usually I have lots of thoughts. Yeah, so it was quite like a strange feeling for me to not have lots of thoughts coming into my head, because usually I'm a bit of an overthinker and have a lot of thoughts coming into my head. So I actually found that very, very like calming for me to be able to have some peace with that from the thoughts, and that allowed me to focus a lot more on the walking. Yeah, and I find it a lot easier to do that with the walking rather than the sitting. I find it a lot harder to get to that point with the sitting. So that's, I guess, something I still need to keep working towards with the mindful sitting as well. Yeah.
That's encouraging. Now you have some incentive to practice walking, and it's also better that good to hear that you like walking compared to sitting because of that reason, because a lot of people like sitting over walking, but very hard to find people like walking, because it does not give that sense of calmness while walking, because it is not as closed as sitting. In sitting, it's a very controlled environment, right? You just sit, everything, all the faculties are closed as much as possible. But whereas walking is like doing the experiment in the field, right? So it's good that you were able to bring your attention to the walking process or whatever that you paid attention to, and you have noticed the disturbances kept at bay. But there is a very important game the mind is playing. The game mind is playing is, now since you are not giving up, since you keep on walking, you have moved away from the things that you should have otherwise done during this period, right? And so if you had gone home, you may have involved with a lot of sense pleasure, and that sense pleasure is not there, and the thoughts relating to them are also not come. But the mind wants that pleasure somehow. So therefore, it suggests you enjoy the situation you are in. And how it does is by identifying this situation or knowing that this situation is calming situation, right? And by doing that, what it really does is not allowing you to give the details of the walking itself, right? If we are doing mindful walking, good that you have gone to a calmer situation and you have been with the walk, but still, mind is not allowing you to take the details of walking. If you are mindful in the walking process, right, you should go to the next step, or the mind should be diverted to the next step, which is taking the informations of the walking process. And right. So is it possible for you to give some information about the walking process? Because it looks
that your attention has been with the walking process. Number one, you are not used to giving details of the walking process. So therefore, although you have observed it, you may not have provided. And mind is trying to give something to enjoy instead of giving the details of the walking process. So anything that you have observed relating to walking process?
Yeah, that's a very point that I was probably more focusing on the calm feeling rather than the actual walking itself. I guess with the walking process, I was sometimes trying to focus on how the surfaces feel on my feet as well, especially walking over some of the carpet, different feeling to the tiles, feeling like the ache and pains in my legs as well is usually what I'm noticing, trying to I guess think about what actually is involved in the walking process, like what your body actually has to do. I do try to focus on those aspects of walking as well. But yeah, I do think that that's the next step, to focus more on that rather than the calm feeling of not having too many thoughts come in as well.
Yeah, it's not a mistake. It's not something wrong. That is the nature. That is how our mind is working. And why we should have discussion is because of the very same reason. Then only we can see how our mind is trying to trick us. Right? So since you have come away from the sensual pleasure, it wants to find some other pleasure somewhere. And it puts us into that situation. And that is the exact problem the Blessed One had when he was preaching. There were a lot of people practicing, a lot of people doing mindfulness, but they were stuck in different places. It's a situation like that. When our mind becomes calm, we start loving it and we stay there. We don't see the details of that, the main object. Right? So what the Blessed One did was to challenge that. Okay, you are calm, fine. Tell me how you place your leg. Tell me what sensations you feel. Now you mentioned that you felt carpet different to the tile. Right? There again, the mind is not trying to really give the real information. If the carpet was different to the tile, what was the difference? Right? What is your experience in relation to that? How you felt the carpet? How you felt the tile? Right? So if you go to those information, your mind goes more and more into your body. Right? Say, for example, when you walk on the carpet, suppose you feel that your feet is sinking onto the carpet and you have some ticklish sensation. And you initially see that only on the sole of your feet. If you keep on concentrating on that and keep on walking, then you can feel the ticklish sensation, even not only just the sole of the feet, it comes even to the upper foot. Right? And especially good example is when you usually place the leg, you keep the heel first. Right? You don't very carefully place it because of the gravity. When you observe, it just drop down, right? When it drops down, if you are careful and if you are very close, you can see that vibration. You feel the vibration on the bone, to the upper levels of the body. So so those things, that is more important, right? But this is a very good starting point, though. So now mind is settled. Mind is not disturbed by anything. So you can use that mind to penetrate further, right? So it's a very good report. And do you want to say something about sitting as well? I know you don't like it.
I don't not like it. I think I find that, I guess, breathing compared to walking, even though there's a lot that's involved in breathing, I find it harder to get the detail out of that. And I find it difficult to breathe naturally when I'm focusing on my breathing as well. So it is quite forceful too. I don't know what it actually takes to be able to observe your breathing without actually controlling it. But I've definitely noticed that being a bit of an issue with the breathing, which is why I find it a little bit more difficult in that sense as well. Because I guess walking, I find like easy to do naturally, but this I find is a bit more forceful with the breathing. Yeah.
Now that's a good report as well, right? Because someone who has settled walking usually have a better sitting. And your sitting is better, you don't know that your sitting is good, you don't know that it is good. That's the only difference. And you said you will have to force yourself to breathe or to feel it. The reason for that is you're already resting while walking. So when you come here, you don't want that much of energy to maintain your body. So the breath is so subtle, right? So what we are saying is, okay, observe the breath, and he's asking me to observe where is my breath. Right? So then we will have to be very, very mindful of the meaning of mindfulness. Meaning of mindfulness is just be aware of the present moment and the present place of yourself. So if you are aware that you don't have breath, or you don't at least perceive the breath, that is mindfulness, not looking for breath. So when you therefore produce the report, what you will have to say is, after walking, after all those informations relating to walking, I come and sit. When I come and sit, I try to focus my attention. Where do you usually try to focus your attention? At the entrance of the nostril, or tummy, or chest? Or?
Usually chest.
Yeah. I try to bring my attention to the chest, and I don't feel any movement of the chest. Right? And I just be aware of that. Right? And that mindfulness is much stronger than the mindfulness that you have with the breath. It is easy for you to walk when there is a path. There is no path how you walk. That is what the Blessed One is teaching. So therefore, not that your sitting was bad, sitting was even better. So try to next time, when you don't perceive the breath, don't try to force it, just try to be awakened into the non-existence of the breath. See how far, how long you can maintain that awareness. Good. Thank you. Right. Any other question, comment? Please. You can take the time. I won't go anywhere, I'll be here.
Just have an observation to discuss, if that's okay, regarding the walking. Initially, when we first started, it was very difficult to maintain attention to the sensations in the feet. But as time progressed, I guess the way it changed was now I could, after struggling to maintain attention to the feet, now you can maintain attention to the feet, but the perceptions, or rather the information you get, is very vague. It's just your foot is contacting the floor. And then afterwards, you start feeling that different parts of the feet are contacting the floor. And then only recently, I realized that some tiles are cooler than other tiles when you're walking. And when you're being mindful of where you're stepping, sometimes other thoughts arise in your mind, but your mind naturally sort of pulls you back to your feet. As a sensation. And then discussing the topic or the thing you mentioned just before, during one or two steps, some sensation went up my feet, like up to near where my knees are. It was like a chilling or like vibratory sensation. So those are just some observations that I've mentioned.
Good. This is the most important thing in the practice is when you get the technique, continuous practice is very important. Right? You can practice here for
45 minutes walking, 45 minutes every week. Right? I'm not quite sure whether you all practice at home. Practicing at home, not 45 minutes. You don't have 45 minutes. You cannot afford 45 minutes. But you can take 10 minutes. 10 minutes walking, 10 minutes sitting. That is a life change. Right? By listening to what you say, that potential is there. Very high potential is there. So if you get this type of experience by doing it on a weekly basis, you introduce that to your routine, it's going to get even sharper, right? So therefore, rather than commenting on your observation, and I definitely commend the observation, but instead of giving more details of observation, practice has to be part of life. Because what Buddha teaches is not just sitting and walking. What he teaches is a way of living, right? So therefore, this mindfulness can now be implemented 24/7. Be mindful of whatever the body is doing, whatever that you feel. Right? No need to deliberately do anything. Do the things in the normal manner. Don't change the pace, but try to have your attention to the body and the feel. And that manner, if it becomes part of your routine, especially doing the real practice, walking and sitting 10 minutes, walking 10 minutes, sitting on a daily basis, and it is going to cascade faster into the normal life. It becomes very slow. And that excess will be naturally, gradually slither down. No need to cut. Naturally falls. Like ice cube that is melting. So observations are good, and keep those observations continuing. And, it looks like your attention is going into the process now. So when it goes into the process, daily practices. Anybody else wants to say something? Fish, are you all right?
Yes, I'm all good, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Interesting thing about perception discourse. I went to buy a game. It was a shooting game, but it's in virtual reality. So you put like a mask on your face, you get a backpack, and you can walk around in this room playing a game with your friends. And it's very good. And to give an example, like you're going up on a lift, and you get the perception that you're moving up. And I'm scared of heights as well. So you're walking about in, let's say, a very high sort of area, and you know it's not real, but you get the perception that you're at height and you're, scared of it. And then after the game, we were, just talking to my friends and this and that. And the general consensus was that it was very forward thinking, and it's great that you got this VR game that you can play and blah 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 sort of thing. But I guess that's how the world works, where at no point in time does anyone consider that there's no end to that perception. Even that perception in 10 years, if you could do a VR game and you never have to leave the house, it would still not be enough. There'll be something else that's missing. Anyway, that's my comment.
Thank you very much for that comment. If you take the perception based on technology, then you will have to keep on talking the whole night. Our perceptions have been very seriously affected by the technology. just zeros and ones, making such a huge difference in our mental process, right? And it has taken, when Facebook was introduced, he has mentioned, what's his name? Yes, he has mentioned that we know that we are going to take every second of your free time. And that's knowingly they are doing it. And we get caught. We get caught. Being a monk, even I sometimes get caught into those things. Right? But these are not bad. None of these are bad. Everything is having a utility value. We have gone much more beyond the utility. It's the worst part. If we use these things for utility value, nuclear is such a wonderful thing, but it is used to finish the world in a second. That is the development we have. But construction takes years. Now, just say Corona has come, which was another perception that did not exist mid of 2019. And started in sometime December 2019, right? So Corona has come and no one is having a definitive answer yet. So that's the development we have. We call it development. The destruction is so quick, construction is so slow. Anyway, I'm anti-development guy. With that comment, we can conclude the session. To conclude the session, we can share these positive energies with whoever who is able to share these energies. To do that, we will chant the traditional stanzas.